Have you always wanted to kill Zalcano, but had no idea how to do any of it? Maybe you have a bingo event coming up and you don't want to be considered dead weight to your friends or clanmates for the Zalcano tile. Or just maybe you finished watching my video of me being imprisoned here for 34 days, and now you want to endure the same fate I did. I think that's really dumb, but hey, who am I to tell you what to do? Welcome to everything you need to know about Zalcano. To access Zalcano, you'll need to have completed the Song of the Elves quest. No other requirements are necessary to kill Zalcano. That being said though, I do have some recommendations before you start this boss. I recommend having 75 mining and 56 runecrafting to increase your damage done to Zalcano. The runecrafting recommendation is kind of arbitrary, but in terms of time investment versus the outcome experienced, 56 gives you an additional 4 max hits on the boss versus having level 1 runecrafting. And it doesn't really take that long to grind out these days, so I'll go into these formulas later on, but just understand right now 56 is a good recommendation for your runecrafting. The quickest and easiest way to get here is to teleport to Prifddinas using an Eternal or regular teleport crystal, and then run east to this portal. Alternatively, you can use a Prifddinas teleport tablet by using a scroll of redirection on a house teleport tab, or teleport to your house if it's in Prifddinas. You can use a spirit tree and run southeast from there, and if all else fails, you can use a charter ship and run east from the ship location to get to Zalcano. Thankfully, there's a bank rather close to Zalcano, so it's easier to gear up once you get here. Your most basic setup for Zalcano will look something like this: a graceful hood, cape, legs, gloves, and boots, phoenix necklace, any blessing, dragon pickaxe, Varrock armor, any level that you have is fine. A completed god book, any explorer's ring. We are trying to balance a few things here. We need to try and be lightweight, but also maximize any mining bonuses we can get, as well as increase our passive healing if we take damage. So we end up with this mishmash of different gear to try and maximize the utility of each equipment slot we have. If we wanted to upgrade this setup, we would include the following upgrades. A max cape, mining cape, or HP cape are all upgrades from the graceful cape. If you have a Gomol's Lucky Penny, and using a crystal pickaxe, the Lucky Penny will serve some utility there in helping save some charges. Upgrade your pickaxe to a crystal pickaxe as soon as possible, as it actually gives you an additional max hit, and if you're worried about charges from the crystal pickaxe, you garner enough crystal shards to keep it charged throughout doing Zalcano, so don't worry there. Upgrade your graceful gloves to a regen bracelet if you have the money, and your ring to an elven/celestial signet to help save charges with the pickaxe. And if you are using a celestial signet, you will get the +4 invisible mining boost. Finally, if you really have the money, upgrade your shield to an Elysian. Totally not necessary, but it is the best in slot shield because of its damage reduction. So a maxed out setup would look something like this with all the upgrades we were talking about. Thank you Gear Discord for the screenshot. I'm not rich enough to have this set up. Next to the maxed out setup is what I used for my Zalcano grind, and it worked completely fine. Your inventory would look like some variation of this: a couple phoenix necklaces to replace your old one when it triggers, a crystal teleport seed if you decide to use one, a rune pouch to hold the runes you get as a drop, and then 8 brews and 4 staminas. You will adjust this ratio according to your own uses, but this is where everyone should start off from and then adjust accordingly. Before we start talking about the boss, I just want to point out that there is a Zalcano plugin on RuneLite, the base RuneLite client, that I would suggest turning on if you don't want to think too much while fighting this boss. It will highlight tiles that falling rocks are targeting, as well as telling you which deposit to mine. Also, there's a Zalcano utility plugin on the plugin hub that you can use, and it will quickly tell you how many people are in the room, which can assist you if you decide to do small teams. It has a couple other utility small niche cases as well. I didn't really use them, I just wanted to know how many people were in the room when I was doing my grind. Segue into a tangent about small teams versus masses. Small teams are superior GP per hour, but they take significantly longer than doing masses. If you want to do small teams, I would suggest using the Friends Chat Zalcano host to find teams. Generally, I'd also recommend looking for teams in between 3 and 5 range, as they're a good size for decent kill times, as well as decent loot. If you just want the pet, however, do masses, thank me later. Alright, let's move on to Zalcano. First, the room itself. There are 4 deposits in each corner of the room. Only one of them will be glowing. You will need to mine from the glowing deposit a various amount of tephra depending on the team size. If you are doing masses, I always recommend getting 2 mining XP drops and then stopping mining from there. If you are doing small teams, the general consensus is to mine 36 divided by the number of people in the room. So, for a 3-man team, that would be 12 tephra, 4-man, 9, 5-man, 7, 8, so on and so forth. After you've mined your tephra, you will need to run to the furnace on the eastern wall and refine your tephra. After it's refined, run to the west altar and imbue it. Afterwards, throw the imbued tephra at Zalcano to damage her shield. You do not need to equip the tephra to throw it. Once the shield is down, then you mine Zalcano to deal damage to her health directly. Your damage while throwing the tephra is a formula derived from your smithing and rune crafting level, where your max hit is equal to 5 plus the sum of your rune crafting and smithing level divided by 2, and then take that quotient and divide it by 7. Math is hard. Whereas your damage done with mining is based off of your mining level. Weird, right? Damage breakdown is as follows. 1 to 74 is a 30 max hit, 75 to 84 is 31, 85 to 94 is 32, 95 to 104 is 33, and 105 plus is 34. Your pickaxe can also add a max hit, as I said earlier, to your damage, with a dragon pickaxe giving +1 and a crystal pickaxe giving +2. Zalcano will also stand up after a certain amount of time, or if a max amount of damage has been dealt to her, meaning you will have to repeat this pattern for a minimum of 3 phases before she will die. Also, don't stand next to her when she stands up or she'll hurt you. Same thing if you try to run underneath her while she's fallen. There are a couple special attacks that you should know about Zalcano. Falling boulders. Zalcano will target squares players are standing on and have boulders fall on those tiles. All you need to do is step away from the tile before the boulder falls on it to avoid the damage. Glowing circles are sigils. These will appear on the ground in 2 colors, red and blue. Red is bad. I know. What a concept. All circles will have a hitbox of 3x3 tiles. The red circles will deal quick damage to you as well as drain your energy, while the blue circles will give you an accuracy and damage boost to the tephra that you throw. Generally, I recommend saving a few tephra to throw on these circles, as the damage boost is rather significant. Rubble will also occasionally fall from the ceiling and deal low damage to all players. This is unavoidable damage. This is why we have the regen bracelet. Orange orb. Occasionally she'll throw out an orange orb towards a glowing deposit in the room. This will cause the glowing deposit to explode, dealing 20 plus damage to anybody that is next to the deposit that exploded, and another new deposit will begin glowing after the previous one exploded. You'll usually see this happen after she stands up from being down. Finally, she will also spawn a red orb that summons a golem. This golem will walk towards Zalcano and heal her if he runs into Zalcano. The golem has 14 HP and rewards the player who registered the most damage to the golem with a large amount of tephra. Generally, this is only really killed in small teams, but if you want to be a Giga Chad super cool nice guy, you can sacrifice some of your boss damage to kill it in masses for a quicker down as well. Note I said damage registered though, not dealt, meaning that even if you throw a tephra at the golem and no damage is dealt, the golem still registers what damage you would have dealt with that tephra even though no number appeared. Think similar to how like an SGS spec works if you use it on a Turoth or a Kurask. Tips for this boss. Tephra has an attack cooldown of 3 ticks, so use this to your advantage, and if you are moving towards a blue circle, try moving during the 2 ticks where you can't do anything so you can maximize your damage dealt in masses. Not really recommended for smaller teams though. When mining, if you need to move for any reason and still need to mine, try moving right after your XP drop and then mining again. That way you don't miss any time while mining. If you're going to attack the golem and be a super cool nice guy, try moving as close as possible to the golem to reduce the travel time of your tephra so your damage registers faster. Helpful, so weird instance where the golem will run into Zalcano even though he has no health, but it's RuneScape, just roll with it. Go watch this video about pathing if you're not super comfortable with it, or download a plugin for paths if you really don't feel like learning. This will help a lot with avoiding red circles. This is what will make Zalcano extremely irritating if you are not good with pathing. When Zalcano is close to going down, move to within 2 tiles of her so you can spam click her as she goes down and you can get the earliest XP drop possible. This is helpful in masses where getting in enough damage is a challenge. Finally, as Zalcano is standing up, if you click on the glowing deposit within 1 tick of her beginning to stand up, you will never get hit by her knockback. If you are clicking 2 ticks after she begins standing up, I cannot guarantee your safety. Okay, I'm recording this in post. Another helpful tip is the glowing deposits. If you're using the RuneLite client, anytime that the glowing deposit is glowing, you can shift right click it and click mark all for the glowing deposit, and what that will do is it will draw a square around that deposit whenever it's glowing. You will have to do this with every single deposit in the room, so for all 4 of them, whenever they're glowing, you'll have to shift right click and click mark all, but this is just a really handy way to determine whether or not it's glowing and which one you need to run to, instead of that little arrow that will point down if you use the Zalcano plugin. or just visually seeing that the node is glowing. The giant square around it is a really good way for your brain to just see where it needs to run. Alright, so we're going to do an example kill. I'm going to walk you through kind of what we do just so you can get a full live commentary. This is how you kill Zalcano. I'm doing it in Mass World. If you're doing it in small teams, it will be significantly slower than this. I don't know how many people we have in this world right now, but it's quite a bit. So first thing we do is look for the glowing one. It's slightly brighter than the rest of them. In a Mass World, I get 2 XP drops and then we run. And if you know pathing, you wait till that hits and then you can run through it without taking damage like all these other schmucks. You refine everything, and then once you refine all your ore, you run around the 3x3 radius for those sigils if they're up. And then we run over to this altar. We will imbue everything. And because there's no sigils up right now, I'm not going to throw them. But now that I have everything imbued, I'll start throwing it. Basically, if there was any sigil up, I would have just waited, or I would have just like imbued one and then immediately thrown off of a blue sigil just to get that increased damage and accuracy. And then you see there, if I click within, 2 ticks of her going down or her starting to come back up, I can always run to the new glowing one and never get hit by her knockback. All right, this is a fun one. I think I have bad pathing there, and then you run through, you run diagonals, you run diagonal up, and there you go. You can run through the blue ones, so like I said earlier, I'm gonna just immediately start throwing from the blue ones because watch your health, it's just gonna evaporate. Yeah, it just goes down super quick in the Mass World if there's any blue sigil up close to the altar. So we'll find the glowing one, we will run over to it after she starts standing up. If you notice, she does wipe out all of your tephra that you have left over, imbued or just refined. So you can't just like stockpile a bunch of tephra and, not have to do the rest of this. She also just spawned a golem, but because she hasn't taken any damage to her shield this time, it didn't heal her when it ran into her. Alright, sigils are up, so we're going to make our way over to one. There's a bunch of people still running in, so I'm going to get probably like 2 or 3 of these off. And then I'm going to start moving in close so I can get that early XP drop. There we go. We had a 2-tick cycle. And Zalcano's dead. It's, in a Mass World, it goes really fast. And it's, rather enjoyable. Small teams, it's super chill. It's super calm. Not a whole lot going on, so you can kind of do whatever you want. Obviously, you go by that guide that I said with, you take your team and divide 36 by the number of people on your team. That's how many tephra you do, but it's calm. You usually wait for blue sigils for the majority of your stuff, so that way you guarantee the down. It's, Zalcano's fun. I'm glad that I'm done with it. I'm glad that I don't have to do this boss anymore, but that's how you kill Zalcano. And finally, the good stuff, the rewards. As I said earlier, small teams are superior for GP per hour. The wiki states that the average Zalcano kill is about 180k, and this is considering hitting all rare drops on the drop rate. This includes things like the Crystal Tool Seed, which is deceptively the most common rare drop at 1 in 200, as well as the most expensive. This drop rate is just a drop rate of the Tool Seed actually dropping though. Once it is dropped, it is then rolled amongst those eligible for the drop, with the MVP having an increased chance of receiving it. Fun fact as well, there is a 1 in 40 chance that if you roll the Crystal Tool Seed table, then instead of a Crystal Tool Seed, an uncut Onyx will drop instead, which is significantly cheaper. Due to this rarity, the drop rate of an Onyx is roughly 1 in 8,000. There's also a Zalcano shard that can drop, which adds an ornament to the Dragon Pickaxe and is incredibly cheap with a drop rate ranging from 1 in 750 to 1500, and this changes based on the player's contribution to the kill. Unlike the Crystal Tool Seed, however, this drop is rolled independently for each player, so seeing one doesn't necessarily mean someone else stole it from you. Finally, there's also Smallcano, which is the pet at 1 in 2250 drop rate. And just like the Zalcano shard, this is rolled independently for each player after the kill. And it's super cute, just look at it. Every drop you will receive a various amount of crystal shards, and they all have different meanings based on the amount you receive. 1 crystal shard just means you are eligible for any normal drop from the boss. 2 of them means you are eligible for any normal drop plus uniques and the pet, and 3 means you were the MVP. This is the best way to determine if you are eligible for uniques in the pet, as there's a lot of other factors that go into one's contribution outside of just the damage done to the boss or her shield. So just focus on fighting the boss efficiently, doing some of the tips and tricks I told you about earlier, and you really shouldn't have any problems with being eligible for the drops that you want. Well, that's going to do it for us here in this guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're looking for a community to join, please join my Discord in the description. We have a lot of knowledgeable gamers in there, as well as a clan of if you feel like joining. Thanks for watching, and happy scaping.